Hello. Here's a short clip, he says, on managing emotional flashbacks. This is for people who are long-time sufferers of CPTSD. One of the things that I've been asked time and again is, is there any kind of a cure? Well, I don't know whether there's a cure for CPTSD that is like a long-lasting, permanent thing that you can take and then that's it for the rest of your life. Because CPTSD is a systemic problem and it gets right the way into the system, which is why it can so often look like a personality disorder, because it seems to be permanent, pervasive and personal. I don't believe, however, even though it looks like a personality disorder, that it actually is. I think that it can be dealt with, but the word cure might be a bit strong. There's a series of skill sets that we can develop, a series of beliefs that we can change and restructure that will help. The major symptoms of CPTSD, like anxiety, depression, rage, overwhelming sense of despair and helplessness and self-abandonment, these things can be cleared up and definitely massively ameliorated. I know that because I have done that in my own life. The essential element, the sine qua non, which is a pretentious way of saying the one thing that you cannot do without when you're seeking to tackle CPTSD and to overcome it, so that you can start to gain traction in your life again, so that you can start to enjoy a degree of normalcy. I mean, I don't really enjoy normalcy, but I enjoy a degree of normalcy again, and so that you can start to move forward in your life. Because a lot of people with CPTSD complain that they can't get any traction. No matter how hard they push their foot down on the pedal, their life just never seems to move forward. The sine qua non is dealing with emotional flashbacks. Myself and Layla Lorick have teamed up again. We've created a new manual. It's a short manual that there's no real theory in it. There's a very brief description of the theory of how CPTSD functions at a systemic level, how it gets into the system and how it plays itself out. But the vast majority of the manual, what we wanted to do this time is just offer as much practical, hands-on advice as we could, just for handling emotional flashbacks. So the thing is this: if you can reduce the emotional flashbacks, you can reduce the extent to which CPTSD warps your view of reality. And this is why CPTSD looks like a personality disorder, because when you have, as the psychologists would call it, extremely labile affect, meaning you're intensely emotionally dysregulated, your adrenaline is off the charts, at seemingly random times for no real reason, you've gone pretty much all the way cray, and you're losing your shit over nothing in whatever trauma response style you have. That's called having labile affect. So your emotions are bouncing all over the place. What that actually starts to do is it affects your perceptions. So if you have emotional dysregulation over time and your perceptions start to get warped, one of the perceptions that starts to get warped is your self-perception and your perception of other people in reality. That then trickles down into the belief system, and then your persona, in order to deal with these new perceptions of reality and a new belief system that is growing out of this post-traumatic embitterment syndrome, this traumatic and embittered reality tunnel that you're now living in, the CPTSD reality tunnel that you're now living in, starts to have a not great effect on your personality, a deleterious effect on your personality. I'm just throwing out big words today. I'm enjoying it today. It's not good. It's another way of saying it's not very good for you and your personality when you start going mad like that over nothing, just doing your own head in and going mad. So what we need to do is we need to look at what's causing that. And the cause of these things is kind of like storms inside of the brain, storms inside of the body, storms inside of the emotion, turbulence. And that we as human beings need to learn to operate our own system. And a lot of people who have CPTSD were not encouraged to think of themselves as sovereign individuals with their own emotions and their own feelings, their own perceptions, at all, let alone that they had their own feelings, their own emotions and their own perceptions that they could control and influence. However, I was raised by a psychopath, and he was very keen to teach me these things that you could. I mean, he was very sick and he had a very, very damaging effect on me, but he did teach me useful things. It was him that encouraged me into the study of Buddhism, Sufism, neurolinguistic programming, all that the crazy stuff in the 60s, 70s and 80s on personal development, your Anthony Robbins, your psycho-cybernetics, Zig Ziglar, all of those people was pushed upon me, and I quite liked it. I think the very first one that was pushed upon me, the very first book he bought me, was Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I read that inside of 36 hours, and old Psychopath was really impressed by that. Well, he'd never been impressed with anything else I'd ever done in my life before. So I was like, oh, okay, that's the kind of thing you like. So I just devoured the information, and the effect is what you have in front of you today. Deeply troubled individual whose obsession became different types of personal development. Oh Jesus, I'm laughing, but behind the laughter there's only tears. So what happens over time is this starts to impact your personality. And the one thing that you need to learn how to do is to run your own state, to run your own system, and to have your own sovereignty. In my case, the psychopath that raised me was not teaching me to run my own state so that I would have my own sovereignty, be my own human being and express my own individuality. No, he saw me as an extension of himself, as a part of himself, and if he could make that hand more effective, then he could use it and exploit it more effectively. That's what he did. He basically treated me like a limb, but he wanted that limb to be, effective at certain things. So it gave me a unique insight into the cluster B mindset. He would tell me really creepy stuff when I was a kid, like never tell the whole truth about who you are, always hold back part of yourself behind a mask. The kind of stuff that a father should teach his child. It's healthy. So it's not healthy. So over time, the person loses any sense of their own self, their own sort of sense of who they are as opposed to other people, as opposed to just not being the sick parent's limb or body part or extension of the self, of them. You lose the ability to think of yourself as a separate individual. So what this course that myself and Leila Lorick have created invites you to do is it gives you, the first thing it does, and I'll tell you for free, is it gives you a reframe, which is that, you can, I'm not just going to say to you, you are in charge of your life and your emotions, because your brain's going to go, that's fucking bullshit. But what I would say is you can learn over time to become more in control of how you feel. And the reframe is a very simple one. It's like, imagine you are the pilot of an aircraft or a spacecraft, if you like sci-fi stuff. I was always a big Red Dwarf fan when I was a kid, so I always think of it as like a spacecraft, and there's a control unit in front of me with dials and buttons and whistles and all kinds of whistles. Why would there be a whistle? It doesn't matter. But you need to check that, and that you need to check in with yourself and check whether the fuel level is low. Look out, look at your turbulence indicator. Is turbulence coming? Is there anything the aircraft needs in order to function? Do we have an objective? Is the map up to date? Is there software that needs dealing with? Are there emergency lights on here that I'm just ignoring and not looking at because I'm trained into a state of self-abandonment? Do I need sleep, exercise, sunlight, water, food, music, stand-up, maybe some stand-up comedy? Maybe I need 3 milligrams of Louis C.K. and 2 of Bill Burr today. Maybe that's what I need before. All these things, it's acknowledging your own needs and seeing yourself as an entity that is moving through time and space that actually can be helped in order to do that. That's the first reframe that we offer, and there is a few like audio downloads with this that function as a kind of self-hypnosis that permits you to practice doing this inside of your own head. Once you've got that reframe that you can learn to be more in control of how you feel, and that these emotional flashbacks are functioning as storms that are creating turbulence in your life, and either if you have no knowledge whatsoever, you'll fly straight into the storm because you didn't even see it coming, and you weren't even looking out of the cockpit windows, you were just down, or you were dissociated and staring out the window and doing something else, where you actually start to see the storms coming. I can't make it so that there won't be stress in your life. For people with CPTSD, our capacity to manage stress is compromised. It's been compromised, it's been damaged. But I can teach you to see it coming and to hopefully avoid it altogether. But when you can't avoid it, how to get yourself back out of it. And once you've got into the course and you've read through the manual and you've read through the exercise and listened to the audios, that you could, it's more like don't think of it as a book. I'm going to read it once and that's it. Think of it more like an operating manual with exercises in it and audio downloads in it that I would prefer. Like, if you want this to work, guys, you've got to be a little bit diligent, self-disciplined. And if I had a say in it, I would like you to use the audio downloads twice a day and refer back to the manual and do the exercises twice a day for 3 or 4 weeks. That's about the length of time. If you were committed and you were doing it twice a day and you gave it a month, every exercise, every technique that myself and Layla Lorick gives you in this course, for about a month, it starts to become unconscious and you will always be able to do it, and you'll always have a better handle on emotional flashbacks after that. The core element of it that's most important is a hand mnemonic that permits you to remember that there is such a thing called emotional flashbacks. If you go and look at the Pete Walker material on managing CPTSD, one of the first things that he advises you to do is to acknowledge that you're in an emotional flashback. That and that alone can be hugely powerful. When you go, this ain't me, this is an emotional flashback that's happening right now. And then what I've done is I've created like a mnemonic that is on the 5 fingers of your hand. There are 5 different techniques that you come back to, and 5 different affirmations and 5 different belief changes that go with that. So you can literally be standing anywhere at any time, and without anybody noticing, you can just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When you get good at it, it takes 10 seconds to run through these 5 things. When you get good at it, that will take 2 or 3 weeks of practice. And you just touch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For these 5 different techniques, for these 5 different, they kind of function somewhere between reframes, mnemonics. I mean, they're literally reminding you of the truth of what you're experiencing. 5 different elements, 5 different truths about emotional flashbacks that you need to bear in mind, and 5 different weapons in order to fight the emotional flashbacks. That's available now on Amazon, Amazon the world, Amazon worldwide. It's only available in English. The audio downloads are there, and the links inside of the book that you can get and read on Kindle or read on your phone or wherever you like. And for the next week, what we're doing is, I think it's like $4 or $5 to get this thing. Everybody who goes and buys it and who leaves us a review, even if it's not a good review, even if it's really, please don't be mean, there's just no need. But even if it's a bad review, you can write your review and then you can contact Layla Lorick. I'll give all of her contact details in the information bar below, and she'll send you any free course that you want, any course of hers that you've seen on my website or on her website, nabsrecovery.com, that you like the look of, any of the downloadable courses or any of the downloadable courses you've seen on my website. You can message her, you can say, hey, I left you a feedback, give me something free, and Layla will say, okay, what would you like? And then she'll send you one of the downloads. Please don't ask for my London seminar. That's like 12 hours of video footage of me just giving up the best of everything that I know. Please don't ask to get that for free. Apart from that, you can have anything else you want for the next week for free, as long as you buy this book and give us a review. That would be really cool if you could do that for us. We'd be very grateful. Okay, well, I hope that you enjoyed that video. As ever, thank you very much for your time and your attention, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Thank you.